Okay, today we're solving percent problems. I'm going to teach you two different ways to set up equations that will allow us to solve these percent problems. And then from there you can choose which one works best for you and use that on your homework. So the first method I'm going to show you is using cross multiplication. And here's basically what it looks like. Part out of whole equals your percent over 100. So the part is whatever smaller part of the whole that you take. So for instance, in example 1, they ask what percent, so we're going to be looking for this p right here, of 25 is 17. Now, it might help to see that your part is the is, and your whole is the of. And so, we plug in our is 17 on top and our of 25 on the bottom, and we can cross multiply to find what our p is. So cross multiplying gives us 1700 equals 25p. When we divide both sides by 25, we get p equals 68%. And that's all there is to it. So if we had another one, what percent of 20 is 15? We'd have 15 on top, 20 on the bottom, has to equal p over 100. Cross multiplying would give us 1500 equals 20p. And when we divide both sides by 20, find that p is 75%. Now it's a little different if we're given the percent. For instance, what number is 30% of 90? So in this case, we have our 30% over 100. And on the left, we have our of 90. So our of goes on the bottom. We're looking for our part, our missing piece there. So when we cross multiply, we have 100x equals 2700. When we divide both sides by 100, we get x equals 27. So that's one way to solve our percent equations. Another way to solve it is part equals percent as a decimal, that's the key, times the whole. Okay, so we can look at that as our part is still the is, and our whole is still the of. So if I have what percent of 136, that 136 is going in for the of, is 51, that's going to equal my p percent. So I divide both sides by 136, and 51 divided by 136 is 0.375. And to make that a percent, I just move the decimal 2 spaces to the right, giving me 37.5%. Another way of looking at that, or another example, is what number is 15%, so that gives us our percent. We're going to have to change it to a decimal, of 88. Okay, so that's times our whole. Remember that of means times, so it makes sense that this should be over here. So of our whole, which is 88, equals what part? So all we have to do in this one is make our percent a decimal. So we move the decimal place to the left 2 spaces, and we multiply by 88, which gives us 13.2. So 13.2 is 15% of 88. So there's two ways of looking at it there, and you can choose whichever one works best for you. Let's do one more example before we do a word problem. 20 is 12.5% of what number? Now I want you to try this one of the ways that we just demonstrated and come up with an answer, and then when you come back, when we unpause the video, I'll walk you through both methods. Okay, so if we're doing the cross multiplication method, The is, the part, goes on top, and we don't know the whole, so we'll call that W. And that's got to be 12.5 over 100. So when we cross multiply, we get 2,000 equals 12.5 times W. Then I divide both sides by 12.5, and I get W equals 160. If I'm setting this up as an equation, I see that my part, my is, equals 12.5 as a decimal, which is 0.125, times my whole, which I don't know. So I divide both sides by 0.125, and I get that W equals 160. So there's my answer. Let's look at a word problem. A survey asked 220 students to name their favorite pasta dish. Find the percent of students who chose the given pasta dish. So this is example 5 from your book, and we want to know what percent chose macaroni and cheese first. Now, first of all, there's 33 students who chose macaroni and cheese. But in order to find the percent, I need to know how many students there were altogether. So I want to quick total up the numbers in that table to find how many students there are altogether in this survey. Otherwise, I won't be able to find my percentage, because my percentage is a part out of a whole. If I don't know how much the whole is, I have a hard time finding my percent. So when I add that up, I get a total of 220 students. So 33 out of 220 is what percent? So I can cross multiply, giving me 3,300 equals 220 times P. When I divide both sides by 220, I get P equals 15%. B asks what percent prefer lasagna. So I take the same approach. How many like lasagna? Now I'm going to set this up in the equation form. And so the number that like lasagna is a part, and that's 40 people. That's a part of the whole student population. That has to equal my percentage times my whole, my of, which is 220 people. So I divide both sides by 220. And 40 divided by 220 gives me 0.18 approximately. So I'll put a little approximately sign there. And so as a percent, that's about 18%. All right, that's how we walk through it. You can either set it up as an equation or cross multiplication, whichever one works best for you. So if you don't have any questions, get started on the homework. If you do, you can go back and watch the video again or find another resource.